extremely unsettling to me. The first one I want to talk about is a family. And this family consists of mom and dad, hard-working people, live in an upper middle class neighborhood in Lake Wales. 4 children, and dad goes to work like he always does. He works, as he says, an incredible amount so that his wife can stay home and take care of the 4 children and the house. So he goes to work. And he receives a frantic call from one of the children that, mom's being taken by ambulance to Lake Wales Hospital in exceptionally critical condition. This all happens just after about 9:30 yesterday morning. So dad goes to the hospital, rushes to the hospital, and determines from the hospital that mom's died of unknown causes. He goes and gets the daughter out of school. She's 14. And he goes home with his family where they're all grieving together. At about 11:04, we get a phone call from the hospital. They said, "We've just discovered this lady that died from unknown causes that was brought in has suspicious injuries." So immediately we go to the hospital and we rush to the house. The hospital thinks at that time possibly she has puncture wounds. And in fact she does. So we get to the house, and here's this grieving family, and they're shocked by all of a sudden there's patrol cars and homicide detectives that show up. And here's what we discovered. Seth Settle is 19 years of age. Mom takes daughter to school, comes home, and smells smoke in Seth's bedroom. So she goes and she opens the door, and she said, "I've told you before about smoking in this house. Now quit smoking in the house." And she closes the door, and he shoots her through the door. Did you hear what I said? He shoots his mama through the door. There's an entrance wound and an exit wound, and she falls to the floor. He jumps up, runs to where his 24-year-old brother is. It's a large house. Around the corner from the game room, from his bedroom through the game room, around to the main area of the house, and is screaming at his 24-year-old brother, who's in the bathroom and doesn't hear what he says. 24-year-old comes out. Seth has fled the house. He goes looking for his mother and finds her unresponsive in the game room on the floor by Seth's bedroom, and of course dials 911. There is no blood. He doesn't know what happened. He didn't hear a gunshot. Seth's fled. They call EMS. EMS cancels us. It's a medical event. Until they get to the hospital, Dad now has arrived at the hospital. Mom's deceased. They initially don't see any wound. They don't see any blood. And only later, when they're preparing to move Mom, did one of the nurses notice all of a sudden there's a small amount of blood. And in fact, what has happened, she was shot. The medical examiner did the investigation this morning, and what he determined, this in and out wound went directly through her heart. Her heart immediately quit beating, so there was no blood to pump out. We arrest Seth, take him down to the station, and he confesses. But he colors the event in his best interest. He tells us that he's depressed, and some of his friends confirmed to us that he had a girlfriend about a year ago. He said that Mom opened the door to get on to me about smoking, and I was holding a gun to my head, and she told me to put the cigar out and close the door, and the gun accidentally discharged. We don't believe that. We don't believe that because by all accounts, even his admission that Mom was a absolutely, totally wonderful person and the best mom you could ever have. We do a criminal history, not one blemish on anyone's name. Mom, Dad, the 4 kids. This is truly the wonderful family next door. And he kills his mom. We think he was angry. We think he was mad. We're absolutely confident with the type of mom that this is. There's no way she would have closed that door with her son holding a gun to his head. That's our supposition. He fled, went to a friend's house, told him I accidentally shot Mom, fled past her, didn't help, didn't dial 911, hollered something at the brother on the way out of the door. So where are the guns? Well, he tells the detectives, well, I threw them off of the Chalet Suzanne Road into a wooded area. So after hours of searching, we finally determined that another friend had come to the house, and he had asked the other friend to take these 2 firearms away. The friend gave us the firearms, said he wanted me to take the firearms because he was afraid he'd hurt himself. Of course, the friend didn't know Mom was shot. He just knew that Mom had died unexpectedly, and he was just trying to hold the firearms for Seth. Dad, the other brothers, no one had any idea that Seth even had these 2 firearms. And he's too young to possess firearms. The firearms aren't stolen. But at the end of the day, we have, without argument, the most wonderful mom in the world, who's now deceased because the 19-year-old kid shot and killed her. I can't begin to tell you the horror of this event. I had the opportunity to talk to Dad, who's just a great, hardworking, good man. And I can tell you the only people that are more shocked and stunned by this than us and law enforcement are the immediate family. No one ever could see this coming. But for whatever reason, he shot and killed his mom. Are there any questions about that before I go to the next one?
Yeah, so you said that it wasn't a stolen gun. The dad didn't know that he had guns, and he was too young to have it. So where did the gun come from?
He said he bought them off of the street. Now, they're not reported stolen. That doesn't mean that they're not, that someone didn't steal them and sell them to him, and it never got registered in the computer as a stolen firearm. But there is zero indication that the firearm's stolen. He just bought them. Some friends had them.
It was a cigar he was smoking? There was no drugs or anything?
No drugs, black and mild cigar.
Did he show any remorse?
No, he was very stoic. It wasn't that he was unapologetic. He was just very stoic. Said it was a great mom. It was an accident. But he admitted pointing the gun at the door.
Can you share the age of the victim?
The victim's 52. My heart and prayers go out to the entire family. That's not supposed to happen, ever, 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 ever. Okay? I'm still trying to get over an upper respiratory infection, so if you just bear with me a little bit. We'll tell you about a crazy event, and it all happened at the Shady Cove Bar and Grill on Highway 544, which is east of Haines City in the unincorporated area. It's about 5:12 in the afternoon. And Joshua Badillo, who's 31 years of age, comes into the bar. And inside the bar is a motorcycle gang group of a few people and some ladies, and they're minding their own business, having a few beers. They've apparently been at some kind of memorial ride earlier in the day. Joshua's been drinking. He comes up to them and begins to have a conversation. And from the conversation, an argument erupts. And so they quiet the argument down themselves. Joshua Badillo buys a round of beer for them. The argument's over with, and everybody goes along their way. A little while later, this group of folks, of friends in the motorcycle gang, they go outside to the tiki bar. And so they're sitting around at a table. Joshua Badillo comes back, comes up in the middle of the group, sits down in a chair, starts to talk, reaches across the table, and we can see in the video where he grabs the guy's hand to shake his hand, and he holds his hand for an extended period of time while he's shaking it. He turns it loose, and he's just kind of all up in their business. Well, you can see one of the guys goes to what is an off-duty bar employee and says, "Can you get this guy out of here? We want him away from us." So they go talk to him. One of the folks with the gang is a pretty good sized guy, and then you have the employee of the bar, and they get him finally moving. He's had quite a bit to drink, as you can tell by his body language. They come out of the tiki bar, which is kind of behind the bar, and they walk back through the bar into the parking lot out front. Next door is a convenience store. And you can tell through other video that they're having conversations and pointing at each other. And the particularly big guy, who turns out to be our victim number one, is kind of in his face, and they're telling him he needs to leave. He goes back toward his truck slowly and begrudgingly, with some people who he knows from the bar encouraging him to leave and to get in his truck. So they're kind of pushing him and encouraging him to go across the parking lot. When all of a sudden he turns and starts running past two people that are trying to get him into his vehicle. So he runs past those two, and he runs past three more, and he shoots our victim one, which is a big man. Shoots him through the hand and also through the groin with one shot. At this moment in time, a guy burst out of the bar with his firearm in order to protect his buddy and starts shooting at our suspect. The suspect goes around behind his vehicle, which is parked further out in the parking lot. And the guy with the firearm goes out and around the truck along with another person. So now you've got our suspect who did the shooting, Badillo, with his gun. You've got the guy who came out of the bar, who is now going to be victim 2. And he goes to the other side of the truck outside of the camera view, and immediately there's gunfight in the parking lot. You can tell by the body language of other people that are in camera view that they're scattering. Victim 2 is shot in the chest. He falls down. He gets back up and he staggers back toward the bar where he once again falls. Our suspect, Joshua Badillo, now he gets in his vehicle and he says, "Feet, it's time to go." And off he takes off at a high rate of speed. He goes toward his home, which is probably 5 minutes away. Interestingly enough, he has a vehicle crash, so he's involved in a hit and run on the way to his home. Deputies are arriving, EMS is arriving, we gather information. It's no secret about who Joshua is, and we go to the house. We circle the house. It's in a very nice community. I'm guessing the house is probably $1 million, $2 million home, upscale neighborhood. He goes into the house. We walk around the vehicle and we see blood. Turns out Joshua Badillo is shot as well, and he's in the house. So after about 45 minutes in the house, apparently he decides, hey, I'm really bleeding. This could be serious. He comes out to the deputies. We take him into custody and we remove him to the hospital, where we determine that he shot under the armpit and it comes out his back shoulder. So we have this shootout at Shady Cove where the suspect shoots 2 people, kills one of them, and he, in fact, is shot in part of the shootout. And it all started over an argument, a simple argument, and ended up with a dead man, a shot man, and a shot suspect. Joshua Badillo is charged with attempted first-degree murder and felony first-degree murder on the individual that died. There may be other charges filed later as we plow through the details. Some of our witnesses fled from the bar. We'd still like to talk to them just so we can finish the investigation and tie it all up nicely and neatly. But we're relatively confident that we've got the primary players in the event, and certainly we have a lot of details. It's been a long time since I've arrived at a bar to find knives, stilettos, guns, and blood all on the bar floor, and the concrete pavement out in front of the bar. It was quite an event, and we've got a dead person. So the investigation is still underway. Our homicide team, which is simply the very best, is at this time mopping up the details and will be for a few weeks. Do you have any details, any questions of me?
Assuming all the stilettos and other things were on the people who were partying, who were not involved in this?
Well, we suspect that some of the people who went to the hospital were there, because we ended up with, I think, 3 knives, maybe 4 knives on the ground, a gun on the ground. That was the one that our victim ultimately used. The victim had a .38 caliber. The suspect had a .40 caliber semi-automatic. But they were slinging lead in Haines City on Sunday afternoon.
Did he have the weapon on him when he was inside, or did he retrieve it from the truck?
This was over an extended period of time, because he started the initial argument, and then he bought them all rounds of beer, and it calmed down. And there's at least some testimony that he might have gone back to the truck and gotten the gun at that time. We're not absolutely sure. But these folks were minding their own business from everything that we've picked up so far. And they simply went back to the tiki bar, which you have to go through the bar, out the back door in order to get to the tiki bar area, minding their own business. And he stumbles up there drunk again, and he's hanging over the table and trying to shake hands, and still they don't start a fight with him. They go and get help and say, hey, can you get this guy out of here? And of course, they start to get him out, and one of the folks who is victim number one, he now is following them out, trying to help get the guy out. And you can tell he's telling him what he's going to do for him if he doesn't leave. So when this guy decides to start shooting, I mean, they've got him all the way out the front door, across the parking lot, almost to his vehicle. When he decides, it ain't going to be like that at all, and he runs past 5 people to shoot victim 1, back up near the front of the store. And then he goes back, and as he's going back toward his vehicle, that's when victim 2 ultimately runs out and is shooting at him with his .38. And then victim 2 is reloading in the parking lot and goes to the other side of the truck where they have shootout at the Sandy Cove Bar and Grill parking lot. And that's where victim 2 was shot and ultimately was transported to the hospital but died less than an hour later. And our victim, he leaves, he's involved in a hit and run. We catch him he lives there, but as I understand it, his parents' house in a very nice neighborhood. But this guy here, if he'd have just minded his business and left these folks alone, none of this would have happened. It's on him.
What's the status of the person he hit? The person he hit, he was in a car wreck?
We're following up with that. That person's okay.
How many bullets were exchanged, and did any go inside the building, either at the convenience store or at the dive bar?
We're still counting because there were shots toward the bar, and then there were shots across the parking lot and across Highway 544. And then there was a shootout parallel to Highway 544. And then apparently the suspect, after he shot the victim in the chest, for good measure, ripped another one at him, which went across Highway 544. We can see where it skipped through the dirt. So we had a surreal life shootout for a few minutes. And we've got a dead person as a result of it. And this guy should spend the rest of his life in prison for his efforts. And it all would have been so easy if he'd have just minded his own business. But that's not always what drunks do.
How about history? Does he have a history with you, or is he known to you?
He doesn't have a significant history. He's got some minor stuff, I believe, but not a significant history.
Was the victim that died part of the motorcycle group?
Yes, yes. And once again, they weren't being rowdy. They weren't out of control. They were minding their own business. And we got Joshua Badillo, who, he drank him some liquid courage and decided he'd march around like a banty rooster, and now we've clipped his wings and he's going to jail.
The man who died was the one that shot in the chest?
Yes. And he was one of the group.
So you have a motorcycle gang. Could he be a motorcycle guy and be in a rival gang, and maybe that's what?
No, so far we don't see any gang affiliation with him. He did apparently recognize one of these other guys as being part of a former gang, and they've now gone to a new gang, but these guys weren't creating any trouble.
Are you saying that he was part of a gang at one point?
No, the other guy. He recognized one of the others as being a former gang member. At this point, we've not been able to document that he's part of any gang or ever has been.
What gang member
Well, we don't like to give out their names because we don't like to market for them.
Can we have the age of the victim who died?
The victim, I think, was 54 or 56. 54, we'll get the details for you, but and it's sad. It should have never happened. But stupid is as stupid does.
Sounds like he's lucky to be alive himself because he easily bled out.
Well, he is. He's lucky. If the other guy had been a better shot, he would have been dead too. But the other guy was not a good shot, and ultimately he came out to protect his buddy, and he ended up dying. Victim 2 did. Okay, anything else? Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day, and we'll see you the next time somebody does something really stupid. Take care.